think most of you have done the Enneagram test. Some of you are very new to the system. Some of you have been studying it a lot longer. But in any case, hopefully today will be a nice introduction to how to actually use this complicated system with all the lines and the circles and the arrows and the diagram, which you've probably seen online. So I'd like to kick off today's presentation by talking about my story with the Enneagram and how I got into it. So for the Enneagram, for me, has been a huge journey of self-discovery. I was about 4 years ago, I was living in Brunei. I was taking a bit of a career break. I've been spending my entire career in investment banking and finance. So I was working in London and Hong Kong, and I decided to chill out in a quiet place. So I went off to Brunei, a small country in Southeast Asia. Had a chronic medical condition at the time. It's called fibromyalgia. It's basically a soft tissue condition where the body's in chronic pain, and basically had to take a huge break from work in order to rebalance myself. So during that time, I had a ton of spare time on my hands. So I had, looking online for these personality development things, I came across MBTI. I had done MBTI in the past, and I was typed as an INFJ, INTJ, an ENTJ, and I kind of molded around my career around that, going to investment banking and finance, very logical thinking profession. But this time, during my break, I kind of like, when I was doing the assessments again, I came in, I typed this INFJ. So I was like, how's that possible? It's no way on the F. I've been growing up in a boys' school my whole life. I'm working in an investment banking environment. There's no way I'm a T. But the more I looked into it, the more I looked into cognitive functions, I started to understand that, hey, actually, perhaps this F does fit for me. And as I got more comfortable with my type, I started exploring a lot more. I came across another personality system whilst in Brunei, and it's called the Enneagram. So this is even more complicated system. So I watched all these lines and arrows and diagrams. But at the same time, when I took some of the tests, I looked into it a lot more. Pretty much where you are today, some of you new to it, taking the test, just exploring a little bit. So I found that this system really works and it really fits. And I want to get into it a lot more. So I decided to make my way from Bandar Serkan, Brunei. I decided to take a kind of a study course in Stanford University in the US. Went over there, did a lot of courses from entrepreneurship to career development. And one of the courses I did was on the Enneagram. So I spent a semester studying the Enneagram. Fascinating system. I learned how it works in business, how it can work in the workplace. And I decided to go. I went back to Brunei again after that. I started thinking about the Enneagram again. It's kind of hooked me. This kind of system which seems to make a lot of sense and seems to put everything in context. So back in Brunei, I decided I was getting really into it at the time. I decided to go back again to California to do my further studies in the Enneagram. So I moved across to California once again, this time to Menlo Park, at this retreat center, Valambrosa Retreat Center. So it's a beautiful peak of summer in California. We stayed in these small huts there, one bedrooms. I was living there for about 20 days and 20 nights, doing 6 different courses. We stretched all the way from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. So we were all living in a community. We were understanding and totally immersed in the Enneagram and learning what it's all about. We've been holding teacher training there for about 30 years. The teachers, my Enneagram teachers, Enneagram masters as it were. So this is Helen Palmer. She wrote the book, The Enneagram. She's been teaching the Enneagram since the 1970s. So it's almost about 40 years, pretty much from this location. Another one of my teachers there, Dr. David Daniels, he was formerly professor of psychiatry and behavioral science at Stanford University. He also taught that he learned the Enneagram from Helen Palmer. He wrote the book, The Essential Enneagram. He applied a lot of scientific knowledge to it. I love the background. He's neurobiology, neuroscience. I love the testing, which has been research has done in the Enneagram. Thousands of people have been interviewed for his book and Helen Palmer's book. So what he said, he passed away earlier this year. and the world is missing a great man, because he had a tremendous impact on me. And one of his words to us was like, I really believe that Enneagram can change the world. So with that, that kind of stuck with me, and I decided, like, now I'm really now coming out to teach and share bits about the Enneagram. I think I've been inspired a lot by Dr. David Daniels, his work with the Enneagram, his work with in the psychiatry profession, what he's done, and the kind of transformative personal transformation can take place as a result of the work that the Enneagram. So he's a lovely man, and the world will sorely miss him. So how did they impart their knowledge and experience to us? So apart from didactic teachings, we also split into small groups like dyads and triads, and we actually interacted a lot with each other. You can't learn this so much me standing up here and talking to you. That's part of it. A lot of it is hands-on information that's transmitted from person to person. We learned a lot from each other. Everyone had some familiarity with the types, and one of the unique teaching methods here is called the panel. So how the panel works, so you see here I'm being interviewed by Helen Palmer on a panel. So she'll be asking me questions about my type. So I'll be kind of sitting at the front of the room. You'll be in the back. You're kind of watching people describe themselves, describe the inner workings, the inner mechanisms and behavior, and how they see themselves, how they show up in the world. And it's a wonderful experience, because every time we go on a panel, you learn so much about yourselves. At the same time, you contribute to the body of knowledge about the Enneagram, because thousands and thousands of people have done this, and all that knowledge has been compiled together in all these books that you can see in the bookshops. All that interviews have been distilled and filtered, and patterns of what people say according to their type have been filtered over the decades and into the body of knowledge we have today. So the panel interview was a way in which we did our learning. It's really amazing to be able to share and to listen to other people who are able to come up and be vulnerable and share about their type, how they show up in the world, and their patterns of behavior to see it. So we're actually part of a global community. People from all around the world came here. So interesting, these two fellas at the back, they're part of this thing known as the Enneagram Prison Project. I mean, you can Google Enneagram Prison Project. So basically, they learned about Enneagram when they were incarcerated, I think in San Quentin, a prison in California. And so during that time, the government kind of sponsors a lot of these convicts who are going to leave the prison. They want to get a job. They want to show up in the world differently from whatever they were before they got them incarcerated in the first place. So one of the courses they signed up for was the Enneagram Prison Project course. So they came where they kind of showed up. They learned about their type, and they found that it helped them so much that they decided to go on the teachers training program with me, which was all sponsored by the school I was with. And so they can learn about the Enneagram. So they go back to the prisons around the US and share how the Enneagram has changed their lives, and how they can then go forward and help other people with the system that they've learned, which has helped them kind of live a different life from what they used to. This is a lot of my different classes, but there's some overlap.